Broadcast has been set.
Very good, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 14th, 2022 OBAFA committee meeting. My name is Dr. Kenneth Harris. I am your committee chair. Thank you for joining us this evening. Ms. Barton, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I will. Dr. Kenneth Harris,
Here.
Mrs. Madeline Natalia Frazier,
Present.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Mr. David Murray.
Here.
We have quorum.
Perfect. All right, moving on to section 1.3, the adoption of the September 14th, 2022 meeting agenda. May I have a motion to accept the meeting agenda for today's meeting?
So moved.
Very good. Can I have a second?
Second.
Very good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. That's everyone. No oppositions or no opposed. Motion passes. The agenda for tonight is adopted. Moving on to section 1.4, the approval of the August 24th, 2022 meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the August 24th, 2022 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Very good. And I'll
Second.
second that. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the August 24th, 2022 meeting minutes. All in favor? Or sorry, it's been moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. No opposed. So the motion passed. The meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to section 2.0 here, we have one registered public comment speaker for this evening. It'll actually be a written testimony though. So it's written up and it's posted on board docs for the public to read. And just a reminder to the public, you're always able to sign up for public comment to actually speak during the meetings. If you prefer written, that's also an option. Moving on to section 3.1, the FY 2024 operating budget surveys will give the board members and our constituents the opportunity to give their budget priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. We did this last year with our community as well as our board members, just because we want to hear from you all about how you feel the money should be spent and taken into consideration. We're having these great conversations with Dr. Hersman and Dr. Goldston and the rest of the staff. So the surveys will be released soon to the community and will assist with feedback. And Ms. Barton will, I guess, release the link for the surveys at this time. So we'll release the link for the surveys at this time, and we'll provide. She'll show it on screen. Actually, she's going to show on screen how you can access it. It's the same thing as a Google form from last year if you're not familiar with it. And we'll be. Say it one more time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And it'll be separated according to districts. And there's a number of questions just to kind of get a feel for what is your specific priority, what is your family specific priority. We'll keep this survey open for 30 days, and then we'll close it and we'll reevaluate the data and send it out to your corresponding board member so that they're able to review what moves you the most. All right, Ms. Barton. So we'll post that on the PGCPS website for the community to get. Please share with your contacts and friends, and we'll also try to send out an email blast as well. Moving on to section 3.2. Actually, I want to stop there. 3.1. Do my colleagues have any questions, comments, concerns, anything they'd like to add to the surveys, the operating budget surveys that'll go out this year? Just want to open the floor there. Okay, sounds good. All right, so 3.2, we'll move over to summer school financial report. So I'll now yield the floor to Mr. Michael Herbstman, our Chief Financial Officer, to give the report.
Good evening. Thank you, Ms. Barton. Thank you, Chair Harris and members of the OBAFA committee. So tonight we will give a brief overview of the FY 2023 summer school financials. As a note, all the dollar figures that you'll see tonight are preliminary numbers. As we'll discuss towards the end of the presentation, there's going to be some upward adjustment on all of the programs for retroactive pay. We'll get a little more into that later in the presentation. So the chart that you see now shows a roll-up of all of the summer programs included in the FY 2023 budget. Overall, the budget projections were very good for the summer programs. There's a total of $22.4 million budget in FY 2023, but this includes, as you can see at the bottom of the chart, funding held for multi-year grants. Of the 22.4 million, 7.1 million of that is purposely held in our Title I and federal COVID-19 grants for use next summer. It's kind of an oddity of the way that the fiscal year timing works. So that leaves $15.3 million that we had intended to spend on the summer programs for the summer that just ended. That excludes transportation and food services, which aren't included in the chart here. So across all sources, we spent 15.2 million of that 15.3 million budget, or 99.4% of what was allocated. Within the different programs, there's a little more underspending and overspending, but I'll address those on the next few slides. Next slide, please. So here we focus on our major general education programs funded through our federal COVID-19 relief grants, primarily the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, or the ESSER grant program. So these include the Elementary Acceleration Academy, the Middle School Intervention and Enrichment programs, and the High School Credit Recovery and Original Credit programs. On the top green chart, you can see the budgets versus actual expenditures. On the bottom orange chart, you see the program size and scope, and that they're really in line with last year's programs. Across these three programs, we see underspending of about $1.2 million. This number will come down a little from as we get that retroactive pay in, as I'll discuss a little more later. But that roughly $1.2 million will help towards a summer program deficit that we currently have in the ESSER 3 grant for next summer. The reason for that is that when we last amended the ESSER 3 grant, which is approximately a year ago, we underestimated the total cost in these programs as we later expanded them. For next summer, we have right now budgeted about $4.2 million left on the ESSER 3 grant out of a likely need of $9 million. With the 1.2 million recovered here, we'll still need to complete an amendment later this year to reprogram approximately $3.6 million within the ESSER 3 grant for summer 2023 programs. Next slide, please. So within the extended school year program, we're looking at spending approximately $500,000 above the budgeted amount for the summer that just ended. This relatively minor or relatively marginal overspend is a good thing in this case. It really is represents higher participation than expected in this program. This is a general funded program, and it will require adjustments within the larger general fund budget. These changes will likely come to the Board of Education for review as part of the first financial review that we present for FY 2023. On the Title I side, total expenditures were $273,000 above the budget. This again is not a significant issue. There's room in the portion of the FY 2023 funding dedicated to summer 2023 to absorb this overage and still expand Title I summer programs for next summer. Next slide, please. Finally, I wanted to point out just a couple of sort of oddities that really only apply to this year on the financial side of our summer programs. First, we paid all 10-month employees an additional 20% over their regular hourly salaries. We know that the last couple of years have been tough on everyone and exhausting to all of our employees, and really wanted to ensure that employees would receive an extra incentive for voluntarily participating in these summer programs. Last year, we offered this incentive pay for most programs, but only included those ones that were programs specifically designed to mitigate the effects of delayed instruction. This year, it applied to all 10-month employees in all summer programs. And second, during this summer, we were still working from the previous negotiated agreement with the Prince George's County Educators Association. We are hopeful that the Board of Education will be ratifying that negotiated agreement very soon. And at that point, employees within the PGCEA bargaining unit will receive really unprecedented salary enhancements as the employees of all other bargaining units received on July 1st. So those PGCEA salary improvements will be retroactive to July 1st. So PGCEA employees that worked over the summer will be paid a retroactive payment to make up for the difference between their current hourly rate and those that will be in place after the contract is ratified, inclusive of their new raises. So that does mean that the numbers that you see here in terms of expenditures will go up in accordance with those final raises. Next slide, please. From the financial side, the overall message is really that summer expenditures were right in line with what was budgeted overall and what we hope to see. And we are in a solid fiscal position for next summer. The academics team is currently hard at work on a report of all of the summer programs, including a deep analysis of program effectiveness. And that report, of course, will be made available to the Board of Education upon completion. Now I'll return the floor to the chair, Dr. Harris, and the committee members for any questions.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Herbstman. I do have one question for you. I'm not sure if we still want to share the slides, but I can speak to it from memory. On slide 2, when you talk about the money that's set aside, the 7.1 million that's set aside for Title I funding, is this a average percentage each year that needs to be held over based on your total projected budget? Sorry, slide 2, Ms. Barton.
Yep. So it's, if you go back to that slide, so it's really two amounts that make up, I believe, that 7.1 million. If you could go one slide back, please. They're shown at the end there. That 2.8 million is the Title I portion towards the bottom of this chart. And then the 4 million is the federal COVID-19 relief grants. So when we first designed the ESSER 3 grant, we put 3 years of summer programs in, and this is the amount that was really remaining of that of those ESSER programs for the third year. And as we've got deeper into this program and really expanded what we're doing over this summer, that's not quite enough in terms of what we need. So we will need to do some reprogramming to get to the full amount. We're going to be roughly, I think, about $3.6 million short on those federal COVID-19 grants. The Title I is really designed because the Title I grant period doesn't coincide with our fiscal year. So in this grant period, we are really budgeting for 2 summers. So we are holding over that 2.8 million in the budget with the intent that it'll roll over to our FY 2024, which is summer 2023. And that will be slightly decreased by the overage in the current year that we had in the summer programs. But even with that, we still have enough money to fully fund the summer 2023 portion of the Title I programs and actually expand them a little bit.
Okay, and that rolls well into my next question. So thank you for your answer there. On slide 4, Ms. Barton, So in terms of the overage for Title I, you're seeing that the ability to absorb that $273,000 as possible and not a negative situation, and just in your opinion.
That's correct. I think
Okay.
I can't speak to exactly what the Title I team is planning in terms of a later amendment, but
Right.
in terms of just the summer programs alone, there's more money budgeted on the next summer side than there was in this summer. So this evens it out a little, but there's even some left over with that. So likely at some point this year, the Title I team will be doing an amendment to move some of that money back to the regular year. But there is sufficient funding to run all of the same programs next year.
Okay, sounds good to me. Just finishing my notes here, opening the floor up to other colleagues who might have questions. Okay, hearing none, you're off the hook, Mr. Herbston. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, so jumping right over to 3.3, we'll move over to our CIP team. So I'm yielding the floor to Dr. Coleman today. Yes, so Dr. Coleman, our Associate Superintendent of Supporting Services, to give the CIP moment and for summer projects this year.
Thank you for that, Chair Harris. I'm actually going to yield to our Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Fawcett.
Okay.
And good evening, Chair Harris and the rest of the board members and the general public. We agreed to give an update today on the summer 22 completed summer projects and give a summary of the list that we provided back in the spring. So I just want to start with just a pie chart of the 132 projects that were scheduled to begin and end either at the end of the summer or early in the fall. Only 74 were completed. They're outlined there. It made them move forward that fast. They're outlined there. There were 4 new replacement schools, new or replacement schools, 2 renovations, 12 environmental improvements, 7 ADA. It keeps moving. All right, 7 ADA systemic ADA upgrades, 31 systemic HVAC replacement projects, 1 exterior door and window replacement, which is essentially, the outside of the building, 12 code corrections, 9 kitchen and food service projects, 12 life and safety projects, 6 athletic improvements, with anything from gyms to tracks, 6 parking lot resurfacing projects, 8 playground replacements, and 20 building repairs, major or minor, depending on how we look at it. So there's a simple pie chart of what that breakdown is. All right, so by the numbers, when you look at it, you said there were 132 projects that were scheduled. In reality, there were 74 that were totally completed. I don't know if that's my computer, but it keeps jumping before I'm ready for it to go. There were 74 that were totally completed. There were many factors that led into why only 74 were completed out of 132. So when we say completed, it means that we're actually done, substantially complete, and before the students return. There were some issues in terms of supply chain issues, as we stated earlier. There were some workforce issues in a couple cases where we had one vendor who was doing some gym renovations and some dance floor renovations that didn't have enough workforce to complete all the projects we needed. So those projects are going to be moved and phased into the fall. The majority of the summer projects that were slated to end that did not end were pretty much almost complete, but there were some things that we told the contractors, that they needed to make sure that they weren't completed by the end of the summer, that they had a phase of project to finish those projects in the evenings early in the school year. So that is ongoing. I just want to remind everyone that we had a very short summer this summer. We got out of school, the last day was June 23rd, and we knew this going in. Which is why we even, typically we have anywhere between 170 to 200 projects going in the summertime, but we scaled it down because there were just some things that we knew we weren't going to be able to do this summer and get completed before the kids got back. And if they had any impact in terms of those projects to students returning, then there was no way the projects were going to be able to go in the short amount of time we had this summer. What for the board members, what we have committed to do, and I talked with the CIP staff, is that we're going to outline, I don't know if you remember that we gave you a list of summer projects by board board member areas. So we're going to give you a breakdown by each of your areas on that same list of exactly what projects were pushed, what projects will be completed, phased and completed in the fall or during the holidays. There's a whole gamut of the projects that were scheduled to go that didn't go, and how we're going to make sure that they get completed on during the school year, or if they were pushed to the summertime. So this is the original list that's attached here, which was, it just basically gives about alphabet all of the projects that we were hoping to have go and finish this summer. But it also included the 24 phase projects, and I skipped over that. But of the 24 phase projects, 20 of those did complete the phase and on time. There were 4 delays. So what a phase project means is those phase projects are not necessarily completed. That means that the phase that was supposed to be completed over the summertime was, and that they moved right on schedule to the next phase, which could be during the school year and in the evening. 4 of them, those projects were delayed, which essentially means that they didn't get out of the phase that they were in. So if it's a 4-phase project and they were slated to finish 3 might not have gotten finished by the time the summer ended. So I mean, the phase 3 would flow into the regular school year, and then phase 4, hopefully they would catch up and get phase 4 done on time. And that's just an example. But since there's so many projects to share, we have to really get individualized with them in terms of you know, which projects are where and at what stage, and we will provide it to the board for each of your different board districts. And that's pretty much where we are.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Just some background for the folks listening. I asked Dr. Fawcett to do this presentation just as a follow-up again, because they've given us a very comprehensive list already of the projects that were going on, but wanted to kind of say, hey, how did the summer go for us, and what shape are our buildings in? How did the projects come out, and what can we expect for the future, as well as, you know, when it comes to summer projects or phase projects? And are those projects I'm not saying they are, but are those for community members that think that some projects that are left over are hindrance to daily operations? It's important to know that Dr. Fawcett and his team are on top of it, and they're making sure that these projects are done in a very amenable way for our students and for the folks working on it.
And I think one of the big things we did, Dr. Harris, is that we made sure that we didn't have any projects that were going to spill over and prohibit school opening this year. The ones that we could, you know, that we definitely knew we would not be able to do in the summertime. I think I've said this before, is that any projects that we do typically during the summer are always going to be accelerated projects. If they're larger projects, they could be an HVAC replacement, even something as simple as a playground replacement. The time frame in which we do these projects are always condensed. It just so happened that this summer, you know, based on us switching and going back to school before Labor Day, getting out later last year because we went to school in school year 21-22 after Labor Day, it was just a shorter summer. But one thing we asked of our contractors was to set a plan and a goal so that they could button up, allow students to come to school, and if they needed time to finish in the evenings or, you know, when major holidays come, because I know we have, you know, one project that we had to push to we have a longer extended holiday, which would be Christmas, so we won't be able to button up, but everything, we won't be able to finish our project to the Christmas holiday, but everything was able to be buttoned up, closed up, and function so school could open on time.
Okay, well, thank you for keeping us abreast of the situation. Colleagues, other board members, any questions for Dr. Fawcett on the, regarding the CIP and summer projects? I see Mr. Murray.
Appreciate it. Thank you for that update, Dr. Fawcett, and your transparency and the hard work of you and your team. It's much appreciated. I was just looking to get an update on the Laurel High School Stadium project.
Yeah, so I know it's moving. I know it's in the queue, the Laurel project, as well as the Bladensburg project and the Douglas project are projects that are moving through the process right now. I can get you more specific timeline on the Laurel project, Mr. Murray, when I get with Mr. Smith and Mr. Matlock. But I couldn't give you a specific timeline right now, but I'll get that to you this week.
Yeah, if you could follow up with me, that would be great. You know, it's been really frustrating. I think we allocated funding for that in fiscal year 2020. I mean, I have emails from Dr. Golson saying we would break ground in fall 2020, and that was delayed. It's fall 2022. And it doesn't inspire confidence. I know it's not simple, but it's not building an entire school, right? And when the money's sitting there, it has been sitting there for years, and the community is waiting, like they watched the board meeting where we approved that money, going on 2-3 years ago. It is frustrating. So that update would be much appreciated. And thanks again.
Absolutely.
That concludes your comments, Mr. Murray. Any questions? Okay. Any other comments from board members or questions? Okay, sounds good. Thank you for that, Dr. Fawcett. Okay, so moving right along to section 4.0. Okay, it looks like we're at the end of our agenda here. So follow-up steps. We don't have anything following up from our August 24th meeting. Next steps, I want to remind everyone that, sorry, I got a note. Want to remind everyone that our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, October 19th at 5 p.m. And don't forget to check out the survey. Please complete the survey. Let your friends and family know to complete the survey regarding the operational budget and how you'd like to see the money spent. Again, it's sent directly to your board member, and then we'll kind of do our analysis based on that. So lastly, let's move on to 5.0 for closing remarks. I think that's it, unless any went around already. Yep. Okay. So let's take a motion to adjourn. I'll accept a motion to adjourn now.
So moved.
All right. And second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Sounds good. We are adjourned. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everyone. Dr. Fawcett, Mr. Herbstman, stick around for me 1 sec. But everyone else, I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
See
Good
you.
night.
Hey, so I know you gotta